Redditors who have a job where they go into other people's homes, plumbers, electricians, etc. What's the weirdest, most disturbing thing you've seen while working in a customer's house? I'm a face painter who does children's birthday parties. I've never had any super sketchy experiences, just a few rundown homes, but the kids always have fun. I went to one house, kinda messy and smelly, but no big deal. I started setting up my supplies and I heard a weird peep sound above me. I look up to see a guinea pig running through a clear plastic tube attached to the ceiling. Then I take a good look around the house and notice the whole place is covered with a network of guinea pig tubes. The mom noticed me looking around and nonchalantly told me they have like 10 guinea pigs. Used to deliver oxygen to people's homes. Saw plenty of weird things. Lots of hoarders, but this one took the cake. He didn't want to let us into his house, but I had to do a home safety assessment before I could set up the equipment. He was anxious about letting me in because his house was mess. He kept telling me about his messy house. Come to find out, it wasn't just messy. It was filled with 200 chickens. He was proud of his show chickens and wouldn't let them live in a barn or cooperative. The smell was unbearable. Other than that, he was a super nice guy. All I can think of reading this is a little girl saying, "Look at all those chickens." That's probably why he needed oxygen. Probably caught an infection from the bird feces. I delivered pizza for about 2 years. I had to deliver to a local motel pretty frequently. One day I go to deliver and a large lady, I'm talking 6 feet 0 inches 220, was decked out in dominatrix attire. She answered the door ready to get down to business, then immediately closed the door and threw a robe on. She apologized profusely and then tipped me $10 for the situation. You're lucky that she wasn't expecting her client to show up as a pizza delivery guy, who she is supposed to forcibly abduct and discipline. Food bank delivery to homebound elders. I always fill 2 banana boxes, around 1.5 by 3 foot deep, of all types of food and deliver to his house. One time after delivering to him for 3 years I have to come inside because he hurt his foot. He had never thrown out a single box. They lined every wall and entrance. He built a castle around his bed, and a series of paths through his house. It was like thighs pillow forts you would make as a kid, but with boxes. I asked him if he wanted help getting rid of them and he said no. That it was fun and helped with his dimension. He's super fun. Edit, I'm letting it stay. His dimension? Either you misspelled dementia or he's got some mad real estate. I prefer the latter. I'm an electrician and I was troubleshooting a bad outlet in the bathroom of a former NFL player. I was taking all the outlets apart, following them to see if I could trace out the homerons when he comes in and starts talking football. We are in the middle of talking when he just walks over to the toilet and starts taking a shit. I couldn't see him, but there was just a little pony wall between us. He didn't even stop telling his story. It was crazy. I walked out because of the smell. He came out a little later and it was like nothing ever happened. That's probably normal for the guy. Doubt training camps and whatnot are known for having stellar bathrooms. I remember a story about a player being gifted a game ball by the coach because he managed to take a shit while on the bench in the middle of the game without someone noticing. My uncle is a handyman and he went in to do some work for a family and the toilet was just feces. Not like someone didn't flush, rather nobody did, and the bowl was just crammed full of hardened stool, which had clearly been an accumulating scenario. Usually drug addicts. The scenes you can see are genuinely, worse than animals, I'd say. It's dreadful. Long ago I did estimates for fire and water damage repairs for a restoration company. This couple had a smallish fire in their bedroom. When I enter the home it's seemingly normal, smells like smoke, there was a fire, makes sense. They take me to the bedroom and it was the mattress that had endured the majority of the fire, along with some of the wall above the head of the bed and smoke damage to the ceiling. Next to each side of the bed are 10-gallon buckets filled to the brim with cigarette butts, and hundreds of spilled over butts all over the floor. I was just in awe how they could live like this in their bedroom, especially since the rest of their home seemed tidy and normal. Also completely beyond me why they wouldn't clean that shit up after the fire if for no other reason than insurance adjusters being able to blame them, rightly, and possibly not pay out. How did the fire start, I asked. Required to ask. No idea, the husband replied. Truly a mystery for the ages. My boyfriend is a locksmith. During the 2008 recession, Las Vegas had hundreds thousands of homes that were getting repoed or abandoned. The company he worked for would have him go and change the locks to keep people out, and usually this happened in the middle of the night to limit the possibilities of running into ex-owners of the properties. I sometimes tagged along, mostly to explore some of the ridiculously big houses that people had just left, but helped some of the time. This one house looked totally normal from the outside. You couldn't tell any difference from any of the other cookie cutter, planned development homes. But inside, in every room, there were those timeout dolls. If you have never seen them, they are a doll that stands against the wall with its hands up to its face, and even more creepy, usually they have no face, but they look like a kid hiding their face or pouting after being put in a timeout. When I say they were in every room, I mean every single room. And not just one, but dozens, lining the walls. Not laying down, but standing up against every wall of the house. The house's electricity had been shut off, so all we had was flashlights. Walking into each room, it did not get less creepy seeing doll after doll. He is already afraid of dolls, and this made it so much worse. Altogether we counted 63, but there might have been more. And now I know what I'm doing if I ever get evicted. I've posted this before a while back, but used to work pest control, went into student accommodation to deal with insects. Can't remember what type. Carpet moths or bed bugs, maybe? Anyway, that's not the point of the story. This one room is fairly clean, but we have to spray all fabrics with the chemical in question to prevent any eggs from having a safe space to gestate, so open up suitcases, wardrobes, that sort of thing. The one suitcase is full of used tampons that she was saving for fuck knows what reason, actually, and I don't want to know. Nasty shit, that. Didn't mention it, just did the job and tried to avoid eye contact at the end. I painted a girl's room one time while she laid in bed and played on her phone and took naps. I knocked and expected her to leave, but she just laid back down. It was very strange. Inspecting an oven a tenant had complained was smoking. Yup, it definitely was. Tenant thought an oven could be used like an outdoor grill. Had been cooking meat directly on the oven racks, and all that glorious fat and grease just accumulated in the bottom of the oven and the little drawer underneath. For months. How he didn't burn down the whole damn building is beyond me. I also patched a bullet hole in a shared wall ceiling between apartments. One tenant let his girlfriend play with his loaded gun. She stupidly and accidentally fires it into next door neighbor's apartment. The neighbor was playing video games and didn't notice a bullet come through his wall into the ceiling. Had no clue until the gun-owning boyfriend knocked at his door in a panic and was relieved to see him alive. Oopsie. Edit. Thanks for the silver, kind stranger. Edit 2. Bloody awesome. My top comment isn't about a bag of used tampons anymore. Nice of him to check in, glad everybody is okay. Had a chuckle at not noticing a bullet come through your house. I'd like to imagine he was playing Animal Crossing. A few years back I worked as an electrician. I found a guy with a rifle laying next to him where he had tried to blow his head off through his mouth, but he had missed the vital parts. Brain and blood was all over the bed, but he was still breathing. He was in coma state of mind. Heard later that he died that day. I did apartment maintenance for a while. We started quarterly inspections, and the first day we opened a door and the smell that came out was indescribable. The guy who was with me was ex-military, and he said that we were about to find a body. In the maintenance community this tends not to be a matter of if you ever find a body, but when. He told me that he would go in alone if I was uncomfortable with it, but I went in too. We didn't find a body, but we found a mountain of trash that took up the entire dining area. And honestly just trash, mostly food packaging, everywhere, and that accounted for a lot of the smell. We also found a dog. A very sweet golden retriever that was starved for attention. It was obviously being left to just piss and poop all through the unit. It probably hadn't been outside in weeks based off of the smell and general condition of the unit. We went outside, locked up, and called the property manager for her to come by. While we were waiting he came home. The look on his face when he saw us was terrifying. The manager talked to him and they set a plan about cleanup and gave a time frame for him to get the unit back to regular. The other maintenance guy stayed with him for a while that evening. When we left the unit he was sure that the guy would kill himself that night. Turns out the renter had recently went through a very rough divorce where his children had been removed from him with very little warning and he was spiraling. I left the company before I learned how it all ended. I hope he is doing better. Bunch of used pregnancy tests on the floor of the teenage daughter's closet. I didn't say a damn word to anybody. I do IT work where people call me out to fix their hardware if it's broken. Found child porn on one of my clients' devices. Not a single file, a ton of videos and pictures. Called police as soon as I got out of the house and tipped anonymously, plus called our version of CPS because he had children under the age of 5 in the house. Edit. I'd like to say thanks for the silver and all the comments. I've seen some call me a hero but honestly I'm not. I think everyone in the same situation would have at least notified the police. I'd also like to add a comment I've written as a reply further down below, because I think it's often something that's overlooked in cases like these. Honestly it just makes me feel worse for policemen and women who have to go through all these files one by one, classify them by severity and more. Same as people who have to watch traffic cams with fatalities or mass murders that were streamed. Those guys are the real heroes. I used to do flooring and when we had to get up the subflooring due to water damage. Underneath it there was a black garbage bag. When I opened said bag it had a bunch of women's clothes in it. Didn't think anything about it until we dumped it out and found bloody ripped underwear and torn dresses. Told the owner we had forgot some stuff at work and wouldn't be back until tomorrow. Called the police and never went back. The house was soon up for sale a month or so later. On mobile format etc. I really want to thank everyone for telling me how much they enjoy my writing. My dad has been a plumber for about 30 years. I've worked with him on and off since I was 12. The stories and things we've seen are beyond count, but I have two you guys might like. We get a service call to this house in Inglewood, California. It's an older house probably built in the 50s. We arrived to a smell that is hard to describe. Imagine a monster made of diarrhea that has been baking in the desert sun for weeks. I grabbed my trusty Vicks vapor rub and basically shove it all up my nose. We knock on the door and are greeted by a yell to come in. As soon as the door opens a wave of smell so foul that even a porta potty would find offensive smacks us in our nervous system. I push through it and enter the house. To say this person was a hoarder is an understatement. Piles upon piles of pizza boxes. Mountains of diet soda canned, jars of what I can only assume are piss sprinkled all over the house. The carpet squishing under our feet, we made our way through the neckbeard museum to the hallway. The owner of this hentai hideaway finally appears. The first thing I notice is the shirt. I'm assuming at some point it was a white shirt, but time and gluttony has not been kind to it. It's a mix of colors and stains. His shorts look stiff to the touch, I'm assuming he jerks off into them. His hair is greasy and black, a scraggly beard adorned his skinny face. He says that his water has been shut off for 8 months, but he finally paid the bill and wants us to make sure his shower and toilet are working okay. I already know what's coming. I can see a picture in my mind of the horror that awaits us in the bathroom. We walk over to the bathroom door and open it. My virgin eyes fall upon a sight I will never forget. This bathroom is a war crime. The United Nations would put sanctions against it if they knew it existed. Entire nations would weep at its sight and smell. Terrorist organizations would consider it cruel for such a place to even exist. Guantanamo Bay is a 5-star resort compared to this sin against nature. Every surface is covered in shit and piss and paper. The toilet, the sink, the bathtub, the floor, the walls, the ceiling. All of it covered in a layer of human shit. I've literally swam in shit before, like in a hazmat dive suit. But this is a declaration of war on humanity. This is a crime against God and man. This is a holy war. It's the 7th seal opening and showing us the face of death. I turn to my dad and just say no. He looks at me with a face I can only describe as a mixture of fear, pain, sadness and rage. He looks over at the owner of this fucking hate crime and says, "My God have mercy on you, good luck." We walk out to our truck and never speak of this day. The darkest day humanity has ever faced. But we saved you all. To unleash this plague into the world is something we could never live with. Story 2. Faux reference: I'm 6 feet 5 inches 280 pounds. This story begins with a warning. If you are scared of spiders, you might want to avoid this one. Crawling. Ask any plumber worth his salt. Crawling under houses can be the best and worst part of your job. Sure, it's cold and dark. No one is going to disturb you. But sometimes it's extremely tight and moving around can make you flip out if you don't know how to calm yourself down. And sometimes you see things you never wanted to see. I've crawled into all sorts of stuff under houses with my dad. Possums, wasps' nests, shit, blood, piss, dead animals. But nothing compares to the time I solo crawled under a house to find myself in a scene from Arachnophobia. It was summertime in Los Angeles and it was hot. I put my crawl suit on and grabbed my tool tray. It has various tools in it: pliers, screwdrivers, pipe cutter, blowtorch, etc. I begin shoving my large body into a hole not made for me. I worm my way into the hole feet first and finally slip into the sweet cool darkness. My dad hands me the crawl light and I take a look around. I have about 5 inches of space between me and the floor above. The ground is dry and cool. I don't see anything out of the ordinary and begin to shimmy my massive frame as fast as I can over to the spot I'm supposed to work on. I get to the pipe and start taking a look to see if I can spot a leak. Now, have you ever walked through a spider web and felt like you had a bunch of spiders all over you but didn't? I feel that as I'm rolling over trying to check this pipe out. I think nothing of it. I'm under a house. I'm in the spider realm. It happens. I start digging through my tool tray to look for some soap to test the pipe. The feeling of crawly skin become more and more intense. I grab my crawl light and bring it closer to me. That's when I see them. Thousands upon thousands of them. A literal wave of baby black widows washing over my legs. Now, normally I'm not scared of spiders. But being covered in baby black widows invoked a fear unlike anything I've ever felt. I screamed. I screamed like a 10-year-old girl. I started thrashing my body all over the ground, trying to get them off me. My legs and hands slamming into the ceiling. I start to go into this trance of the walls closing in. The spiders crawling all over me coupled with the tight space makes me hyperventilate and panic. I moved faster than I've ever moved before. I crawled like baby on speed to the entrance. I could still feel them all over me. In my crawl suit, trying to find my soft flesh. I can see the light about 20 feet in front of me. The light is like the tunnel people see when they die. I begin to feel small pricks on my hands and neck. I make it to the crawl space hole and feel my dad's iron grip grab me by the shirt. He summons all of his dad powers to yank me out of the hole and toss me onto the ground. I'm rolling around swearing and yelling trying to get the 8-legged assholes off me when I hear my dad shout stop moving. I finally look up to see him standing over me with the fire extinguisher from our truck and he says close your eyes and mouth and then he blasts me with it. I stand up and look down to see hundreds of little spiders freaking the fuck out from the fire extinguisher chemicals. I peel off the crawl suit and start to inspect myself. All in all I only had 4 bites. I'm not allergic to black widow venom but man did they hurt. We never did finish that job. The owner refused to pay for pest control. The poop dive story. You ever have one of those days where shit just never goes your way? This was one of those days. I'm not supposed to be working with my dad today. But I get a call around 9 AM that he has a job he needs help with and he will be by to pick me up in 30 minutes. We arrive at some cross section of streets in one of the many ghetto areas of LA. I see city trucks and workers huddled around a sewage access panel. My first thought is this is strange, why is the city here? We exit the truck and walk over to the group and that's when the smell hits me. My feeble vocabulary can't begin to describe the foul stench wafting from that hole in the ground. It's like an atom bomb made of hot all-you-can-eat Indian food. Diarrhea was dropped on a city made of week-old animal carcasses that had been dipped in a volcano's asshole. It smelled so bad that I was physically hit by it. Like Mike Tyson had covered his hands in Mitchell Moore's shit to add poison damage to his strikes. Like if a sentient poo monster had declared war on my very being. It smelled like someone who should be dead had violently shit in a Sears dishwasher and hit steam. It smelled like the Civil War had sex with the Vietnam War and had a baby that was a gangrenous pus-filled maggot-ridden dumpster full of dead skunks in the summer fart monster. We approach the group of city workers and my dad starts to fill me in on the situation. Apparently a blockage was making all the sewage from the surrounding 4 blocks fill up this access point. The city workers had outright refused to go down there. So they contracted the company my dad worked for to go in and remove the blockage. I'm not sure of what's involved with this process. I was 18, I have no idea what's going on. All I know is my dad, his boss and his boss's boss were all here. My dad says we are going to dive into this shit lake and remove the blockage before it starts spilling over into the street. I'm thinking, well, at least I'll get paid more, so we go over to the head boss's van to get our suits on. This takes about 20 minutes, but I'm covered head to toe in hazmat gear that's duct taped on. We waddle over to the entrance of hell and begin crawling down the ladder. From what I can remember, it was a strange feeling. Like floating in water without it touching you. If that water was human shit and piss and you bumped into chunks of paper and tampons and other nasty stuff. At this point I'm 200% done with this entire day. I'm just floating at the surface holding the lead to my dad's wire. I feel a tug, which means he is ready to come back up. His head breaks the surface of liquid shit and he yells, "Fucking tree down there." Trees don't just appear in sewage lines. Apparently a tree's roots had become so massive and tangled that the paper products had formed a sort of seal on all the loose spots, blocking all the water waste. We've done all we can and come out of the new public pool. We get to a hazmat shower tent and are sprayed down for what seems like hours. Big old scrub brushes with nasty chemicals scrape our clothes and skin. My dad's boss hands in a check for some absurd amount of money and we get in the truck and leave. That was the last time my dad ever worked for or with the city. That was the last time I'd ever dive into shit. Not enough money in the world for me to do that again. Just read a post in another subreddit about a guy with social anxiety who hid under his bed when the plumbers came and then the plumbers caught him under there. And then he ran and hid in the bathroom until they left. Wonder if those plumbers are on Reddit. I most definitely want to hear their side.